Welcome to SoulScripture, where every story reveals a greater pattern and every moment is a divine spark. Tonight, chosen one, the light bursts open in the Kajia signal not just for MMA, but for every soul who's ever felt the world watching, doubting, or hoping for your fall. In a world quick to label, to praise yesterday's legends and cast tomorrow's prophets as villains, a new frequency is rising. Ilia Topuria's ascension is not merely an athletic achievement, is the archetype of awakening, the lightning strike that disrupts the tired cycles of expectation and proves, once again, that the impossible bends before those who are truly called. Pause for a breath. Because what we witnessed, what the world could barely believe, wasn't just a knockout, it was an eruption of purpose. Topuria entered the octagon with the weight of skepticism pressing down, voices chanting that Charles Oliveira was too big, too experienced, too unbreakable. The experts, the fans, the old guard, they all projected their doubt like a cloak hoping to smother a flame that refused to be hidden. But chosen ones never shrink from this energy. They devour it, they transform it, until it fuels the very miracle the world said was impossible. Think about this moment, chosen one. How many times in your journey have you faced a room full of people, maybe even loved ones, who could not see your vision, who called you foolish, unrealistic, too small for the challenge ahead? How many times have you had to stand alone, holding the frequency of faith, while every voice around you vibrated with disbelief? That's the soul contract of the chosen Unand. That is the spiritual current Ilia Topuria carried into that cage. The fight was never just about fists and footwork. It was a contest of belief, a battle between the energy of limitation and the pulse of destiny. As the first real exchange erupted, the so-called impossible became real in less than a blink. Topuria's right hook, left hook, a combination not just of muscle but of intention, timing, and that mysterious edge only those in alignment can find. One moment, Oliveira was moving, calculating, reaching. The next, he was crumpled a titan brought low by what looked, to the ordinary eye, like ease. But nothing about the chosen path is ever easy, even when it appears effortless. What you're seeing is the outpouring of unseen years, the fruits of silent discipline, and the power of a spirit that simply will not bow to the gravity of others' doubt. Urgency fills the air. This isn't just another highlight to scroll past. It's the thunderclap before the rain, the signal that something has fundamentally shifted. For the sport, yes, but more importantly for everyone who has ever been on the verge of breaking through, everyone who's felt their own destiny rising like fire in their bones. The message? You are not here to be defined by the past, by the critics, by the limitations others project onto you. When your moment arrives, it won't matter how many times they've told you, it's too late, or you're not enough. When you align with your divine frequency, when you step fully into your mission, even the impossible bends. And the world, whether it wants to or not must, witness your ascension. This is why the world needs its chosen ones. Because, left to their own devices, the crowd will always find comfort in the old patterns, the safe heroes, the stories that have already been written. It takes someone burning with a different fire to shatter the routine, to rescue the game, to become the living proof that new legends can rise. Topuria's performance is a reminder to every soul listening. Your awakening may not come with applause, but it will come with impact. There is a moment always that belongs to you and you alone, and when it arrives, you are called not just to seize it, but to embody it with every cell, every breath. So, chosen one, feel this in your spirit. The doubters are about to be silenced, not by argument, but by the overwhelming force of your arrival. The cage is just a stage. The real arena is your life, and destiny is demanding your entrance now. Let the old energies tremble. The awakening has begun, and this time, you are the light that cannot be denied. You've heard it all before, haven't you? You're not big enough. You don't have the right pedigree. This is a different league. The world's chorus of limitation echoes through every discipline, from the fight game to your own journey. And yet, The moment Ilia Topuria stepped into the lightweight division, where the so-called giants roam, he shattered those illusions with the sound of thunder, rewriting the narrative for every chosen one listening right now. Because power, true power, is not measured in pounds or inches. It's measured in the force of your alignment, the conviction of your calling, the fire in your soul that refuses to accept impossible. Topuria's mastery reveals something sacred that goes far beyond the surface of sport. In the eyes of the world, he was the smaller man facing Charles Oliveira, a champion with a legacy of surviving wars, a man who had always found a way to rise. All the analysts and armchair prophets lined up their predictions. Oliveira's size and strength will be too much. Topuria's power won't carry up to this new realm. They used the logic of limitation because they did not understand the energy of transcendence, the ability, unique to the truly anointed, to draw down strength from a higher plane, to become more than the sum of your parts when destiny calls. But this is the secret of the chosen. When you step into your higher purpose, the old boundaries melt away. History is full of those who, in the moment of truth, reached past what should have been possible. David against Goliath, Esther before the king, Joseph rising from the prison cell to rule a nation. In each story, the physical reality seemed to favor the opposition, but the frequency of the chosen one shifted the entire outcome. Topuria's performance is a living archetype of this spiritual law. Size, power, and experience, these are real, but they are not final. What is final is alignment with purpose. Look closer at that right hook, left hook. Sequence the so-called lemon-peasiest combination that toppled a legend. To the casual observer, it was speed, maybe luck, maybe just timing. But to those with spiritual eyes, it was the manifestation of a deeper current, a soul fully surrendered to its mission, a vessel unburdened by the weight of doubt, channeling something greater. Topuria was not moving up in weight class. He was moving up in consciousness, embodying the principle that when you walk in your calling, what once seemed insurmountable becomes as nothing. Urgency floods this moment because it speaks directly to you, chosen one. What boundaries are you still accepting because the world says so? What opportunities have you let pass because you believed the myth of not enough? It is time to defy the old logic. The doubters will always measure you by standards you were never meant to accept. But the real measure is this: are you aligned? Are you ready to claim the fullness of your inheritance, even if it means stepping into a territory where everyone expects you to fail? Remember, every chosen one faces this threshold. There is always a weight class that looks too heavy, a challenge that feels beyond your reach. But history and destiny both belong to those who rise anyway, who refuse to be defined by the metrics of others. Ilia's victory wasn't just about fighting bigger men. It was a signal to every listener, every soul at the edge of a breakthrough, that the power within you, when activated, eclipses the external realities arrayed against you. And as the cage door closed and the crowd prepared to see a mismatch, the frequency shifted. The impossible happened with a clarity that left no room for argument. The so-called too small became the immovable object, the unstoppable force, and the doubters were left speechless in the wake of a higher law revealed. That's the truth the world needs right now. And that's the frequency you are called to embody now, not someday. Chosen one, defy the limits. The boundaries you see are not walls. They are invitations to transcend. Step forward, for the mantle is yours. And as you rise, know this: the world will never look at you the same, because you are not here to fit their mold, you are here to break it. There's a hush that always follows a great collapse, the end of an era, the crumbling of what once seemed eternal. In the octagon, as in life, the old legends do not simply fade, they fall. And with their fall comes the birth of something greater. The crowd gasped as Charles Oliveira, former champion, resilient warrior, the man who refused to break, was dropped not just to the canvas, but out of the mythic aura that shielded him for so long. But chosen one, do not mourn the ending. Every dethroning in the story of the chosen is the divine clearing of space for something new, something urgent, something destined to rise. Ilia Topuria's momentum was never accidental. In every great saga, the hero's rise coincides with the twilight of the old order. Think of the prophets who emerged when ancient empires decayed, the inventors who thrived as outdated paradigms collapsed, the light that only shines when the world grows darkest. Oliveira's reign, his miraculous comebacks and legendary battles, were chapters the world clung to with nostalgia. Yet every story, no matter how beloved, must yield to a new author. The torch is never passed. Gently it is seized by those with vision, those burning with hunger, those who know the future cannot wait. This is the moment where the chosen one's momentum becomes more than just personal glory. It becomes a wave that overtakes the entire landscape. In the aftermath of Topuria's victory, the energy shifted. The fans who had booed, doubted, or clung to yesterday's hero now found themselves swept up in the shockwave of change. Momentum, when sourced from destiny, is irresistible. It turns critics into followers, bystanders into believers. It's as if the old patterns, the predictable outcomes, are washed away by the sheer urgency of something new demanding to be seen. Feel this in your own story, chosen one. How many times have you felt the resistance of an old energy clinging to its throne, the world refusing to let go of what has always been? How many times have you stepped into a space and felt the cold shoulder of tradition, the skeptical glance of those who believe, this is the way it's always done? Every breakthrough, every real shift in frequency, comes with the trembling of the old order. There will always be those who cannot imagine anything beyond the legends they know. But the chosen do not ask for permission. They walk forward, undeterred, and become the new standard. That is why there is drama, even heartbreak, in the fall of great champions. It's the collective fear of change, the anxiety that if one legend can be dethroned, perhaps everything familiar is at risk. Yet in every sacred text, every myth, the fall is not the end. It is the sacred beginning. In ancient Israel, Saul's decline paved the way for David's rise. In the world's greatest epics, the gods themselves fade to make way for new bearers of the flame. The end of the old era is not a tragedy, it is the wild, unstoppable momentum of evolution itself. Urgency pulses through this moment, because it is not just about Topuria or any fighter in a cage. It's about the energy of breakthrough in your life. You are not here to prop up fading legends. You are here to ride the wave of new momentum, to claim your place in the story as the world's expectations are shattered around you. The shock, the disbelief, even the grief that comes when the old ways collapse, these are all signs that something massive is shifting in the collective. And here is your confirmation, chosen one. You are the shift. The end of the old era is not a loss. It's your divine cue to step forward, bring your gifts, and become the hero of this new age. Feel the momentum surging now. The old has fallen. The new is not only possible, it is inevitable. The world will never be the same. Sacred rivalries, very chosen one will face them. For Ilia Topuria, the next horizon isn't just about defending a title or collecting victories. It's about stepping into the crucible, confronting the doubters and the titans who would test every ounce of his destiny. The whispers have already begun. Makashev, Arman, Pimblet names, spoken with reverence, with doubt, sometimes with envy. The world demands a new prophecy. It craves the clash of legendary energies, the meeting of the unstoppable and the immovable. This is the stage reserved for those touched by something higher, a rite of passage through which every chosen one must pass. There's a reason rivalries have always been the heart of every myth, every great spiritual journey. David needed Goliath. Moses faced Pharaoh. Even Christ was tested in the wilderness by the adversary. These confrontations are not accidents. They are the universe's way of refining the chosen, forging the final weapon out of pure potential. As the crowd debates, could Ilia topple Makashev? Would Arman's wrestling be too much? Can Pimblet summon the upset? What's really being measured is not technique, but the frequency of belief. It's not merely about who is stronger, but who can hold the vision, who will not break under the glare of destiny's spotlight. Topuria's victory over Oliveira was dramatic, but the real battle was always going to be with the archetypes, the shadows that stalk every chosen one on their ascent. The doubters say, "This is where it ends. The mountain is too high. The next challenge is too great." But recall the stories. Every hero must pass through a final ordeal, a confrontation with the forces of stagnation, fear, and even ego. These rivals are more than opponents. They are the necessary alchemy, the divine testing ground where the limits of greatness are stretched and, ultimately, transcended. This coming clash is urgent, not just for Ilia, but for every soul listening, for it is a spiritual law. The greater your calling, the greater the resistance you will face. The world will always send a Makashev, an Arman, a Pimblet teach embodying a different form of the shadow, a unique flavor of doubt. Sometimes it's raw power. Sometimes it's technique or experience. But more often than not, it's the voices inside you. Maybe this is too much. Maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I don't belong here. The true rivalry is always within. Chosen one, let this story awaken something ancient in you. When you sense the titans assembling, when the pressure mounts and the world leans in, hungry to see whether you will rise or break, remember, this is not a threat, but an invitation. It is proof that your journey has reached a critical threshold. The universe does not waste its greatest tests on those who are not meant for greatness. Your rivals are evidence of your potential, signposts that you are on the verge of something world-changing. And so, the next battle is not just a spectacle, it is a prophecy. As the fans and critics watch, as the energy swirls and the world waits for a sign, know that every great breakthrough comes at the edge of confrontation. The sacred rivalries are not meant to destroy you, they are meant to reveal you, to awaken powers you never knew you had, to show the world and yourself that your destiny is not just theory, it is living reality. Let the doubters gather. Let the titans assemble. The chosen one stands unshaken, for every great story must face its shadow before the dawn. The next chapter is coming fast. Will you be ready to claim it? What does it mean to win with ease? What does it mean, truly, to move through battle and through life if the obstacles crumble before you? When Ilia Topuria dismantled Charles Oliveira with what seemed like effortless combinations, it was more than just a display of athletic brilliance. It was the manifestation of divine flow, the moment when a chosen one operates so fully in alignment with their destiny that even the impossible starts to look simple. But make no mistake, what appears easy to the world is the result of years spent forging your spirit in silence. Topuria didn't just walk into that cage and turn on greatness like a switch. He arrived at this moment through 1,000 unseen sacrifices, through seasons of self-doubt, through choices made when no one was watching. What we witnessed was the tip of the iceberg, the radiance of a soul finally unlocked, an energy that could no longer be denied. This is the spiritual science of victory. Every chosen one, in every era, has tapped into this current at least once. It is a state beyond anxiety, beyond the clutching need to prove oneself, where the body and mind move as one, and the how is replaced by a knowing that cannot be explained. Topuria's every movement in the cage spoke of this alignment. He was not chasing the moment was flowing through him, like a river powered by something far upstream. Chosen one, you know what it feels like to strive to push, to force, to battle uphill for every inch. But there comes a time, if you persist, when struggle gives way to surrender, and surrender gives way to mastery. Suddenly, things begin to click. The timing is there. The opportunity opens at just the right moment. You land the combination you didn't even know you were preparing for. This is the state of flow, and it belongs to those who have not only trained their hands, but opened their hearts to a higher mission. Think of the prophets who spoke with authority, the mystics who moved through crowds untouched, the artists who changed the world with a single work. Their secrets were not in technique alone, but in an inner alignment so strong that resistance lost its grip. The Chosen One's art is not to fight harder, but to align deeper, to surrender to the frequency that wants to move through you, to become a vessel for something greater. Topuria made it look easy, not because his task was easy, but because he stopped fighting the current. He stepped into it, and when you are in flow, you become unstoppable not by brute force, but by grace. The universe conspires to meet your steps, to turn every movement into a victory, every test into a revelation. This is the effortless power that baffles the world and silences the doubters. Urgency calls for you to find your own flow now. There is no time to keep grinding in old patterns, hoping for scraps of validation. The world is shifting, and your window is opening. Will you dare to surrender to your calling, to trust that the path ahead will support your steps, even if you cannot see the ground beneath you? This is not a time for timid hearts. The era of brute struggle is ending. The age of alignment, of divine flow, has begun. Let Topuria's victory remind you, the greatest power is not in forcing the world to your will, but in allowing the higher will to move through you. Prepare yourself, train your spirit, and when the moment comes, step fully into it without fear, without resistance. The impossible is waiting to become easy for you, Chosen One, if only you will trust the divine flow. There is a paradox that shadows every Chosen One. The only true threat, the only force that can derail destiny, does not come from the outside. It waits within. The underdog's trap, the ancient snare that catches even the most gifted ease. Not the power of an opponent, but the subtle voice that whispers, "You've already won. You can relax now." History is littered with the remains of heroes who forgot the discipline that carried them to greatness, seduced by the illusion that the next battle would be just another step, an easy victory. Ilia Topuria now faces this test, as do you. The world expects him to crush his next challenger, to breeze through a fight against an inferior opponent. But the greatest cautionary tales echo here. Champions who underestimated, legends who rested on their laurels, only to be toppled by those they saw as mere stepping stones. Recall the biblical Samson, invincible until his own arrogance cost him his strength. Remember mighty warriors lulled into comfort, prophets who, in moments of triumph, forgot to stay vigilant. This is the only true threat to the chosen temptation, to turn your focus outward, to become complacent, to lose the fire that made you unstoppable. Chosen One, hear this as a loving warning, not a condemnation. When destiny grants you victory, when the world finally begins to recognize your gifts, the challenge is not to celebrate too long, nor to believe the praise or the hype. The challenge is to keep your spirit sharp, to guard the sacred fire that brought you this far. It is so easy to begin drinking your own Kool-Aid, as the world calls it, to believe you are untouchable, to assume the journey is on autopilot. Yet this is when the darkness strikes, when you are most vulnerable to the chaos within. The universe, in its wisdom, often arranges a lesser challenge at the very moment your star is rising. This is not to sabotage you, but to test your humility and vigilance. In the ancient stories, just as the hero defeats the dragon, a sly serpent waits at the threshold. The enemy now is not an external opponent, but your own ego, your own fatigue, your own willingness to coast. This is the underdog's trap, and it can swallow even the greatest if they are not mindful. Urgency saturates this warning, because your destiny is not simply a matter of talent or calling, it is also a matter of stewardship. How will you handle the moments when victory feels inevitable? Will you slacken your training, neglect your rituals, or allow pride to dull your edge? Or will you remember that the journey never truly ends, that every battle, especially the easy ones, requires the same devotion, the same relentless hunger, the same connection to the source that empowered you to rise? Ilia Topuria must stay awake, as must you. The energy that brought you here cannot be allowed to fade. Greatness is not a resting place, but a state of perpetual motion, perpetual growth. Every new fight is a fresh altar. Every so-called lesser opponent is a mirror, revealing your discipline, your lack of it. Stay humble, stay sharp, stay connected. Do not let the fire within you flicker for even a moment. The world is watching, but the real audience is your higher self. Every day you rise and choose excellence. You protect your legacy from the only enemy that ever truly mattered, the complacency that breeds defeat. Do not become another legend who fell to the underdog's trap. Instead, be the chosen one who never lets their guard down, who continues to sharpen their gifts, guard their fire, and honor the sacred calling, no matter how high they climb. Your destiny is too great for shortcuts. Stand firm. The next easy fight is never as easy as it seems, and the reward for vigilance, the rarest victory of all, not just winning, but enduring, becoming not just a flash of brilliance, but a living legend whose fire never fades. What becomes of those who rise too quickly, who climb higher than anyone imagined? The question of legacy, of whether a chosen one stays to build an era or vanishes at the height of their power haunts every champion, every prophet, every lightbringer. With Ilia Topuria's rapid ascent, the world now holds its breath. Will he remain, forging a dynasty, or will he, like so many shooting stars, disappear just as the world grows accustomed to his radiance? This question is more than idle speculation. It's the spiritual ache at the heart of all greatness. For every David who builds a lineage, there is an Elijah who disappears into the whirlwind. For every king who establishes a throne, there is a wandering sage who leaves behind only echoes. The weight of the chosen path is both a blessing and a curse. You are called to heights others fear to imagine, but the journey is lonely, and the price of staying at the top is relentless. Ilia himself has mused about an early exit, the possibility of retiring young, before the world has time to dull his legend with defeats and controversies. This is the crossroads where every chosen one stands caught between the promise of immortality and the lure of escape, between the duty to inspire and the hunger for peace. The world's energy swirls with anticipation, uncertainty, and a subtle grief, for we know that the brightest lights often burn for the shortest time. But chosen one, this is not just Topuria's story, it's yours. The question of legacy is the question of endurance. Will you keep showing up, refining your gift, facing new battles, even when the applause fades or the world grows restless? Will you deepen your mastery, turning one victory into many? Or will you settle, content to have tasted greatness, but not to have built something lasting? There is urgency in this choice, because the window is always closing. Legends are not forged in a single moment, but over years of commitment, resilience, and the willingness to remain when the initial fire has cooled. The temptation to walk away before the world can see your flaws, before the next challenger arrives is strong. But the greatest legacy is built not by escaping defeat, but by rising again and again, by showing what true mastery looks like when tested by time and adversity. Think of the spiritual masters who returned from the mountaintop to serve, the warriors who fought battle after battle, the kings who rebuilt after every fall. Their legacy endures because they stayed. They understood that the chosen path is not just about ascension, but about presence, about showing up, imperfect and evolving, for as long as you are called. The curse of the chosen is isolation. The blessing is that you leave a map for those who come after. For Topuria, the decision is looming. For you, it is constant. Every day you are asked, will you remain on the path, deepening your legacy? Or will you retreat, leaving the world to wonder what more you might have done? There is no right answer, only the call to honestito, choose your legacy with open eyes, knowing the cost and the reward. So, chosen one, as the echoes of legacy swirl around you, do not fear the question, meet it with courage. Let your answer be an act of devotion, not to fame, but to the mission that burns in your soul. Stay as long as the fire is true, and know that whether you remain or vanish, the world is forever changed by your presence. And now, chosen one, As the echoes of battle still ring in the air and the dust settles around this saga, a surge of divine confirmation flows through this very moment. You have witnessed a force awaken, an energy so undeniable that it disrupts every old expectation and demands the world take notice. But the story is not just about Topuria or the cage. It's about the blessing of battle itself, how every confrontation, every challenge, every rival and every doubt is a portal to your own higher calling. Let's pause, breathing in the magnitude of what's been revealed. The impossible can become reality in a single instant when you stand fully in your alignment. Topuria's victory wasn't just a sporting event, it was an announcement from the universe that a new era is upon us. The old rules are crumbling, the myths of limitation have no more power, and those willing to answer the call are rising fast, radiant and undeniable. This is your divine confirmation. You are not here by accident. You are not just a spectator in life's grand arena. You are a contender, forged by struggle, awakened by challenge, chosen to bring a unique vibration that only you can radiate. The blessing of battle is this: every test you face is proof of your worthiness. Every rival is a mirror of your strength. Every setback is an invitation to level up. And when you step into the cage, your own arena, whatever it looks like, the universe does not ask you to be perfect. It only asks you to be present, to be willing, and to fight with all the fire your spirit can muster. Urgency saturates this hour. The next battle is already forming on the horizon. Complacency is the only true enemy now. The world does not slow down for those who hesitate. The time for hiding is over. Now is the moment to sharpen your discipline, to ignite your faith, and to step up with the courage that only the chosen can know. Whatever it is you are facing, a daunting task, a risky leap, a calling that frightens, you understand that it is not a threat, it is an invitation. Destiny's test, perfectly timed. The blessing flows. May you feel the energy of those who went before you, every prophet, every warrior, every soul who refused to bow to the old order. May you awaken each morning with the confidence that you are divinely equipped, guided, and protected. May every challenge refine you, every victory humble you, and every setback teach you. This is the blessing of the battle, the sacred contract of the chosen. And now, as the world holds its breath for what comes next, I urge you, do not let this be just another story you hear and forget. Seize the frequency. Carry this urgency into your next step. Whether your arena is a boardroom, a studio, a family, or a dream only you can see, show up and bring the full force of your spirit. The time is now. The world is waiting for your light. But here's the final twist, chosen one. Just when you think you've reached your peak, when the crowd cheers, when even you feel invincible, be prepared. The next test will always come disguised as a blessing or a risk. Will you answer the call, or will you settle? That's the secret of all the legends. The path never truly ends. There is always another battle, another level, another blessing, waiting for those who dare. Until our next meeting, stand tall, stay vigilant, and let your story become the proof that the chosen never fall. They rise, again and again, until the world cannot ignore them.